Good morning, everyone. Today we have with us Dr. Alan Bellis, who has kindly agreed to be interviewed for our interview series. Thank you so much, Alan, for your time. I know that,
Um,
I know for a fact that you are very, very busy. But I also know for a fact that you have a lot to say and fun things to say. So let us go ahead and get started. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and a fun fact.
I'm originally from the Detroit area. I did my undergraduate degree in both economics and actuarial science at the University of Michigan, and then I went to the University of Washington for my PhD in economics. I'm currently at Metropolitan State University in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and I've been here since 2004. In the past, I enjoyed racing bicycles, and currently I make ice cream and I grow legal cannabis. So.
That's fun stuff. Must lead to lots of fun conversations. I bet those two. And I know for sure that Alan has very, very unique ice cream flavors that I didn't have an opportunity to sample at the Midwest Economics Association meetings, but they looked very, I think one of them also had curry, which me being, an Indian, I'm like, oh, what is that? So great, great. So I know that you've worked on quite a few types of economics research. Can you tell us a little bit about that? A fun project. Who sparked your interest in it?
I started out with environmental stuff related to pollution control, but in recent years, I've sort of worked on things that my co-authors have been interested in working on and people I know, and sort of going whichever way the wind blows. Probably the most fun project I work on was a textual analysis project with Leah Rachel Koznick. Um, she presented some of her work, and I threw out the idea of Granger causality, and we kind of went from there. I got some really good suggestions from some colleagues in terms of how to improve the analysis. The funnest part was, though, we got a desk rejection, and the editor that gave us the desk rejection was my favorite professor from undergraduate. And it was like 45 minutes, we got it back, and he just said, "This will probably get published somewhere, but it won't be in my journal." And that was tough at the time, but looking back, it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah. Desk rejections and rejections are never easy, right? And in our profession, we really have to kind of deal with that on a regular basis. Great, great. Now, what has been I know you've talked a little bit about this. What has been your professional trajectory in terms of the roles you've had and work that you've done? What do you think you've learned from this journey? Because I know you've done quite a few things.
Um, I mean, I started out as a teaching assistant when I was in graduate school and basically taught pretty much the whole time I was a graduate student. I started out as a TA for the established professors and then moved on to teaching my own own principles classes. Then after my third year of graduate school, I took a year off and went and taught in Bulgaria for a year, where I had 80 first-year undergraduate students that were totally my responsibility to teach principles of micro and macro. That was a lot of fun. I'd been married for a year at the time, and my wife and I went over, so that was a bit of a risk, but I'm pleased to say it turned out all right. Um, I finished my PhD and was not successful in getting a job elsewhere, so I stayed at the University of Washington and taught as an adjunct there for, it turned out to be about 10 years, which is kind of
Wow.
crazy. But I got a good reputation as an instructor of both economics and statistics. And so whenever people around campus needed someone to teach one of those classes, I got called for those positions. So that worked out okay. I knew that it wasn't going to last forever, so I sort of kept looking low key for jobs outside of that. Um, and that was all right. I wasn't getting a lot of research done at that point in time, and so what I did was I did a seminar on my dissertation data set and just talked about the data that were in there. And one of the graduate students at the University of Washington at the time, Ian Lang, who's now at the Colorado School of Mines, was interested and had some good, fresh ideas. And we wound up doing a lot of research together. So that was very cool. After doing this for like 10 years in Seattle, a friend of mine from graduate school who was here at Metro State got in touch with me and let me know that they were hiring. And I applied and was lucky enough to get hired. So I came here in 2004. I started out sort of keeping my head down, working on preparing really, really good quality materials for my students and starting to get some research done. I published a textbook on benefit cost analysis with Richard Zerbe. Um, and then I sort of progressively took on more responsibility. I wound up chairing a very difficult committee in my third year, which was kind of a big step, but I didn't have much of a choice in that. I at one point said that I would consider running for a position in our faculty association and was very surprised 2 weeks later when I saw my name on the ballot, but I didn't fuss about that and slowly moved up in leadership positions there. Eventually wound up as president of our faculty association, got some leadership experience in that. And then a couple of years after that, our dean announced that she was retiring, and I wound up as the interim dean. Um, I guess what I've learned from this whole journey is when an opportunity comes up, don't say no. You don't have to say yes to it, but leave your mind open and leave your opportunities open, and just, learn more about the situation and see what you can do. I mean, the textbook with Richard Zerbe was a bit of a crazy idea, but I didn't say no, and it wound up working out great. Uh, Ian Lang and I organized an environmental session at the Midwest Economics Association, and Leah Rachel Koznick, who we did not know at the time, got plunked down into the middle of what we considered to be our session. And we didn't know her. But instead of fussing about it, we were like, okay, no, this is great. We're happy to have her here. And that's a relationship that has really blossomed. And so don't say no, be nice, be welcoming, treat people with respect. And yeah, that has worked out very well for me.
I'm very glad that you say that because oftentimes I feel that, in the humdrum of academia, especially for early career scholars and students, these are not things that get said very often, but oftentimes this is what essentially matters if you want to have like a long and successful career where you matter to the profession. I always think that, our profession is very, very visible in a good way, but also in a very bad way. So I feel that, we have to be careful. And one of the easiest ways to be careful is to be nice. Because,
Yes,
yes, and I feel that it's not hard. It's not hard.
it's, yeah, it's not hard. And when someone walks into a room, if you haven't met them, you don't know what that person's bringing into the room. This is your chance to find out.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. We don't know what we might find. So then, moving on, what is one of the most fulfilling aspects of your current professional role?
Um, Metro State is a school where lots of the students are the first person in their family to go to college. We have a lot of immigrants, a lot of refugees. And I get to be part of this person, um, really sometimes turning their life around, sometimes being an example to their younger siblings or their family members. And I get to be a part of people just making major and very positive changes in their life. And I love that in particular about being where I am. I've, talked with students as they've been my students and afterwards and just seen the difference that their degree really, really makes in their lives. And I absolutely love that.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, my next question for you is that, we have all areas where, we are working to improve. I know for sure. I wish I was more focused and less distracted, especially when I'm writing. But are there any areas where, you think like, growth areas, opportunities for improvement, all of that good stuff?
So I'm going to go back and kind of reverse what I said before.
Okay.
I said you should never say no, at least at first. But it's important at some point to say no to things. I'm currently committed to a whole bunch of different things, and they're all projects I believe in. They're all projects that I think are important, and they're all projects that involve people I love working with. But at some point, there's too much. And I feel like none of the projects is really getting the full attention that it deserves simply because I've said yes to so many things. So at some point, you do have to learn to say no. And I'm trying to get better at that. I've heard the idea of a no club where you get some colleagues together and you sort of push each other to decline things that maybe are not in your own best interest or to decline things when you have too much going on. And I think the idea of a no club where you're supportive of each other and saying, no, we're not going to do that is a great idea.
Wow, that isn't, yeah. Yes, indeed. But I will say this, Alan, that I appreciate you giving your time to this particular interview effort. And for the audience, if they don't know, this is I'm posting a re-recording, and Al, because we had some technology challenges, and Alan, being so busy, he volunteered to his time so that we could do this again. So I really appreciate that. And I kind of want to go back to what Alan said, be nice. Maybe that's the hashtag. That's what I should put in the video description. Be nice, say no, something like that. I'm glad.
Say no sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes say
Oh,
no.
yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. So, what is an activity that you have not done, or not done enough of, that you want to do in the future? Anything?
Um, no, I'm happy to say I've had a very fulfilling career. My last real
Awesome.
professional goal was to present at the National AEA conference. And because of a recent research project that I got on, where again, I didn't say no. This was outside of my area of expertise, but it was work that was completely consistent with our institution's mission. We agreed to look at relevance, belonging, and growth mindset and how that impacts persistence in economics. Nothing to do with my research. It was with people I had never met before, but they were extremely talented, a pleasure to work with. And as a result of getting on that project, I got to present at the national meetings. And that was kind of my last really big tick mark professionally. Uh, for now, I just want to keep having fun teaching and working with some junior colleagues and helping them be successful. And that's really what I want to keep doing for as long as I keep doing this.
The word that I'm here that comes to mind here is you are willing and interested and able to be a mentor, which is so great in our profession. So looking back to your past work and interactions, and I think this is especially important for people tuning in who are in their earlier stages of their careers, is if you could redo something, what would that be?
Um, I've said lots of silly things, and I wish I could take all of those back. But the one thing that I really wish I could go back and redo is the first paper that I submitted that came out of my dissertation got a rejection, and I was just sort of devastated and really didn't know what that meant and really didn't know how to respond to that. And I never revised and resubmitted it anywhere. So I really wish that I had, dusted myself off and revised it and then sent it somewhere else and gotten it published. And it never has been published. At this point, it probably won't be. That is the one thing that I wish I'd done differently professionally.
And I thank you so much for sharing that. And I think sometimes, we really need to, share these regrets that we have, because hopefully then others will not do this. And I think not publishing from your dissertation is actually quite common. And it's so unfortunate because we spent like our lives working on it. And that's a great piece of that. Thank you for sharing that. So, in looking ahead, what do you think are some of the most exciting developments in environmental economics or economics in general? Any thoughts there in the next 10 to 15 years?
Oh, golly.
Are you going to provide the next research topic for a PhD student? List
No, but
name.
hopefully I will know someone who does, and I will be there when these things start coming out. I think satellite observation has done wonders for the field because it's given us more information and more data at the scale that I think is really, really important. And I think when you combine the amount of information that's available from satellite observations with AI and the ability to really make sense of that information in interesting and creative ways, I think that is really, really going to be interesting. Um, I saw a paper by Eric Zhao some years ago that was like my first introduction to that. And what he did with that was tremendous. And that's still something I share with my students every semester. So that's where I think a lot of the value is going to be just more data, finer scale, and doing a good job of making sense of it.
Awesome, awesome. So, and this, one of the main goals of this, having these conversations with fellow economists is to kind of provide an opportunity for them to, give some mentoring advice. So, our last couple of questions is that, what is something that you wish someone had told you when you were starting out?
I wish someone had told me just how to more healthily respond to rejections from journals. Yeah, I mean, when you get a rejection from a journal, and I didn't realize this till I was on another research project with other people and saw how they responded. You're rejected. Be angry. Say nasty things about the editor and the reviewers for like a day and then get it out of your system and be done with it. Then go back, look at what they said, figure out what you want to incorporate, get it incorporated, and get that paper back out because it doesn't do you any good if it's just sitting on your desk. Does it hurt? Yeah, it hurts. It stings sometimes. More so at first, less so later. But get on it, get that paper rewritten, and send it somewhere. Send it somewhere else, somewhere where someone actually appreciates what great work you are doing.
That's right. That's right. I have a colleague who put it really well. Her very experienced colleague, Dr. Amy Ianaka, she said that, every paper has a home. Of course, we want
Yes.
to publish in big name journals and all of that, but ultimately we want to publish. And if it's the work is good, it's going to find a way to rise up to the top and be impactful. And I completely agree with what she said, and that kind of aligns very well with what you said. So, I don't know if I've already asked this, but any guidance for early career scholars or mid-career scholars? Anything else to add to the secret sauce?
Um, there's this awful bit of guidance that I didn't like when I heard it, but I have to admit it's true. Teaching is kind of the crack cocaine of academia. It provides this instant rush and great gratification because you're doing something for your students. You see them face to face, and it's a lot of fun. So teaching is really gratifying, and it's easy to spend all of your time and energy on teaching, which is great. At the same time, research is important both because that helps you stay at your institution and it gives you mobility if you want to go elsewhere. And so you should do a good job teaching, but don't let teaching become everything that you do and don't give teaching everything that you have. Make sure that you're getting some research done too, both because that maintains your, ability to go elsewhere if you want to. Research is also really good at informing your teaching and giving you something to bring to your students that other people can't necessarily do that. The other thing that I wish I'd done sooner or realized sooner is making good relationships with a variety of other people in your discipline, in your subdiscipline. For me, it's environmental economics, is really important just because it gives you some focus at conferences. You go to a conference, there are people that you see there that help sort of stabilize you at that conference and know why you're going there. It's good to converse with those people, to talk with them about what's happening in the field, what's happening professionally, and it just makes conference going a much more rich and valuable experience. And so if you can develop that sort of like circle, however big it needs to be, of professional colleagues that you're very, very close to. I think that's been tremendously valuable for me in the past 10 or 15 years.
Yes, and that's great insight, because oftentimes when we, in our previous conversation, you talked about, drifting through a conference, and so many of us feel that way. And I think
It's
knowing that can help minimize drifting.
Yeah, and it's true. And you go to a conference and you almost feel like everyone else knows everyone else except for you. And it's not true. And people are generally pretty nice. And if you talk to people, with any luck, eventually you'll get into a group of people that's very supportive and with whom you feel very comfortable. The other thing that I would tell people, is have fun in this job. Working in academia is a
Mhm.
privilege.
It is.
We spend our time studying things that we enjoy, that we think are interesting. Most of us have a lot of flexibility in terms of what we do and how we do it. And I try to have fun in my job. I try to enjoy it as much as I can while still being professional. And I try to make it as enjoyable as possible for my students. And I've done some weird, crazy stuff that my students remember and that quite frankly keeps them awake from 6 to 9:30 at night after a long day at work when when they have to be in my class. And so, yeah, have fun with it. Enjoy it. Academia is a privilege, and it would be a shame to be as fortunate as we are and not really appreciate that and enjoy it.
One last thing though, and I say this because, when we had our previous conversation, it stayed with me. You talked a little bit about what comes next. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So what was it? Because I think that that perspective that you provided, I feel more people should have that and more people should know about that. So would you mind sharing that again?
No, I'd be very happy to. I'm 59 years old. I've got, maybe 10 more years in my career. Um, and I've done most of the things that I want to do. I very much enjoy what I'm doing. So I'm looking for status quo. I'm looking to continue being as supportive as I can of some of my junior colleagues and helping them be successful because that's really important to me. And then I need to think about how I exit the profession gracefully. How do I leave on my own terms while I feel like I'm still productive and contributing? At the same time, managing the transition from being an economist and an economics professor, which I've been for about 30 years now. What do you do? What are you if you're not something that you've been for 3 decades? And that's a little bit scary, and it's something that I'm going to have to think about and focus on. But yeah, sort of leaving while things are still good and while I'm still contributing and finding the next thing. Because as great as being an economics professor is, it doesn't last forever, and at some point you have to do something else.
The what you said is reminds me of these shows which start out as amazing and they drag on. After a while, they drag on, and you are like, oh my God, why didn't they end? And then there are these shows which end like, I haven't watched this. I've been told I should watch it, but Succession on HBO, which ended after 3 seasons, and everybody was like, why did it end? And I'm like, they knew it. Is that
Yeah,
then people keep on talking about it, exiting when the time is right.
yeah,
So
don't stay at the party too long.
that's true. That's true. So my final question to you is that, are you open to being approached by other researchers, wanting to collaborate? You have talked about being very, very overcommitted, but, just in general, interacting with you. And if they, yes, how would you like that to happen?
People are welcome to email me. I'm easy to find. I'm at Metropolitan State University, not the one in Denver, the one in Minnesota, and it's just my name. And I'm easy to get a hold of. If you want my feedback on something, please send me an email. I can't contribute to really playing a major role in more research projects right now, but I'm always happy to hear about what people are working on and offer what I have to offer, which may be of value, may not. Yeah, drop me an email. That's always good. And if you don't hear from me in a couple days, drop me another one and say, "Gosh, Alan, would it kill you to get back to me?" And that would be okay too.
The power of follow-up, right?
Yes.
The
And
power of
we
follow-up.
all get buried under things. We want to do good work. We want to be supportive, but we've got a lot of things going on.
Yes, and maybe next time that anybody sees Alan at a conference, they should just go up to him and say, hi, Alan, how are you? Tell me about what new ice cream flavors you are developing.
I'm sorry you didn't get to try the curry. I think it's fabulous. Not everyone likes it, but I'm very proud of it.
And that is what matters. Absolutely. Have a great day, Alan. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you so much, Samantha. It's been a pleasure.
Bye bye.
Bye.